Yeah, it's been Christmas time, 2024, and I'm a pretty happy person. I'd say I'm a very happy person. I tend to have a positive disposition about just about everything. But at the holiday season, you talk to a lot more people than you normally do. And you get a little time to have self-reflection. And, people have been asking me, see me and talk to me, what's wrong? Why aren't you so happy right now? You seem melancholy and a little down. Well, yeah, a little bit. And I think what I'm going through, and the best way I described it the other day was, I'm kind of having my Sodom and Gomorrah moment. I understand Yahweh's position on destroying Sodom and Gomorrah. And when I saw the news story with the person that lit the poor lady on the subway in New York on fire, that bothered me. Not because it's just personal, but because it's an evidence of a human behavior that is just despicable. It reminds me of a lot of things that I've been thinking about lately. And you gotta understand, I pay attention to a lot of news stories. I don't have a lot of filters. I don't sleep much. I pay attention to a lot of things. I think a lot of people have their personal protection mechanisms. They get involved in some social activity. They may go play cards with their friends, or get in some social engagement where they don't think about these kinds of things. And I don't probably have enough of that going on in my life on purpose. I normally handle it quite well. But sometimes you get to a point where you're like, nah, just push the button and destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, because there's not 10 people out there worth it. And I'd say I have more than 10 people that make dealing with millions of degrading souls worthwhile. If Yahweh's position with preserving Sodom and Gomorrah was find me one person or 10 people, and I'll save them if you can find people worth saving. So that was the task, and that's kind of the task of now. The other story was the goofy kid that allegedly shot the healthcare CEO in New York. These are all happening in New York, gun-free zones. How about that? And then the Saturday Night Live skit where they were talking about him, and all the people in the audience cheered because the girls think he's an attractive kid. And then it's there's all these women that are in love with this killer, or supposed killer, who brutally assassinated that CEO. Because the Marxist infusion underneath the layers of everything is, well, CEOs are evil, because we've been told by the media for years and left-wing politics that people who make money or are rich should be punished. And here's this good-looking little Marxist lunatic radical that all these women find attractive. And it goes back to the story I've told recently about why women chase after bad people. For a whole bunch of reasons. And you see that kind of behavior where people should be appalled by those actions, and the kid that did it, not lusting after him as a sex symbol. It just reminds me of the bad elements of what's going on in society. And then personally, and I can afford to do it. I have a lot of people in my life. I try to help a lot of people. And I do take on some of the misfit toys that are out there, broken people who just don't get a shot in life. And sometimes I've been very successful at helping those people. Sometimes it blows up dramatically in my face. But I do it because I want to try, if I have the ability, and I do, to help those people along, to give them a chance. And they either take it or they slap your hand away. And I think that's, it doesn't change my opinion. I'll probably do that all my life, help people. But there's some people I've tried to help that just have such bad self-images, bad personal habits, that even though you lay in their lap good opportunities, they just won't take it, because they feel they're betraying their origin stories. They might be loyal to the people in their life that have helped make them, put them in a bad place. And you try to help urge them along just to a better way of thinking, and they reject it, and they choose the bad path. And it reminds me a lot of the two angels that went to go find Lot in the Bible. They went to his house to say, hey, Lot, Abraham's out there. You need to get get out of Dodge here. Yeah, Yahweh's going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because there's nobody good, and you're the only one that we're going to save, so get out. Well, the angry mob outside Lot's house saw these two beautiful angels go in. These are guys, and these are a bunch of homosexual people. That's why Sodom is called Sodom and Gomorrah. That's where the word Sodom came from. They had a lot of perverse sexual practices. A lot of them that you see, the types of lefty politics that created Sodom and Gomorrah to be a hell pit anyway, they're trying to resurrect it and bring it into the modern age. And it's what we see happening under the Biden administration and globalism in general, is the same kind of Sodom and Gomorrah politics. So you had a angry mob of homosexuals who saw these beautiful angels go into Lot's house. And they knocked on the door and they said, "Hey, Lot, give us those men. We want to have sex with them. We want to rape them. Give them to us or we're going to destroy your house." And this is why Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed. This is not like yesterday. This isn't the subway. This isn't the guy that killed the CEO. This is a permeating story captured in the Bible that has been going on since time began. And this is history, a reoccurring history that keeps happening. So Lot sees these angry people and he feels, well, I got to protect these angels. They're under my care, and this is my house, and I'm responsible for the people in it. So Lot says, "Here, take my daughters. They're virgins. Take them. Save these guys that are here. I want to preserve my guests," which is a whole bunch of problems all in itself. Why these people, why these men, these strong biblical men, keep giving away their women every time the mob wants them to. Now, Abraham did the same thing a couple times when his wife Sarah was so beautiful that the kings in these areas where he was traveling saw her, and he said, "Well, it's my sister. Go ahead and take her." He didn't fight for his wife. He turned them over and let the kings assume that they could marry them, and that was just his sister. Abraham did it twice because he was afraid he'd be killed, because the conditions at the time were so evil that if you had a beautiful wife and you were alone and you're a man, that they were going to kill you to take the woman from you. So this is the kind of world we're dealing with, and that's why I find the Bible such a fascinating capture of the detriment of the human race and what their propensity for self-destruction can and would be if left to its own devices. So Abraham did that twice. And now here's Lot trying to preserve these two angels that came to his house to warn him to get out of Sodom before Yahweh destroys it. And you got a mob of people want to have homosexual sex with these angels. And Lot says, "Here, take my two daughters. They're virgins. They're nice. You'll love them. Take them." And he's going to throw them out of the street. And it reminds you of the Levite that, the famous story from Judges, where he had his concubine, and the angry mob wanted to have sex with him, and he threw her out into the street, and then the mob dominated her, raped her all night, left her for dead pretty much, and she crawled to the front door, and you think he would, what's he going to do, this Levite? Instead, he cuts her up in 12 pieces and sends her to the 12 tribes of Israel as a warning, unify everybody to stand, against this encroachment of evil that was permeating. Well, it was pretty evil to cut her up. But this is a constant theme that you see where when men are pressed to do the wrong thing, they throw their women to the wolves and try to save themselves. And that's the kind of detriment we're talking about that I see permeating everywhere these days. There's not enough valor, there's not enough good, strong men to stand up against the vile enemies that are out there. They're yielding to evil way too often. And that's often what I see a lot of people doing. And you get into these holiday parties and you hear people talk about, well, I'm gonna have my kid do this, and I'm gonna send my kid here and there and do all these things, because they're really trying to placate society. They're not trying to do what's right for their child. And you see people all the time for social security and getting validation from their friends and neighbors, essentially throwing their kids to the wolves, to the mob, to placate the opinions that you get. It's not quite the same as being pillaged and raped, but it's intellectually, It's when you have a parental figure that's supposed to protect you, throwing those children away in order to trade it for social appeasement, so you don't get criticized, like at the Christmas dinner party, or when you get ready to go, have one of these Christmas dinners. And the thing that most people are concerned with is saying, look what a good parent I am. Look what I did with my children. They're socially institutionalized, and that's the value, when really you put your kids through the meat grinder and pretty much destroyed the intellect they have and their freedom and autonomy to free will, at the expense of their personal initiative, in order to placate an evil that permeates in the background. And when you think about things like that, it can be hard to live in society. And I managed to do it by spending a lot of time in the woods. And yeah, maybe I need to go on a camping trip and just get away for a little bit. But holiday season, you just talk to a lot of people, and you find out that a lot of people have compromised themselves. And in my opinion, the way the Lot was willing to save the angels, which is a valid effort, but to throw your children away because you're figuring, well, I can always have more kids, so here's a couple, rape them, pillage them, do what you want with them, save myself and save my friends here, and go away. And there's a lot of people who do that very thing. And of course, we all know what happened. The angels kind of looked on the situation. They said, hey, poor Lot, let's get you out of here. They struck all the villains with blindness, so they couldn't even see the door. And they wore themselves out trying to deal with their circumstances, and that allowed Lot to escape with his daughters and his wife, and they could leave before Yahweh destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, because there wasn't anybody worth saving in the town, in those cities. And I think I understand how God feels. I understand, even with Lot, when pressed as being one of the only good people worth saving, he still had the morality to not even stand up for his own kids, and was willing to throw them to an angry mob. And the mob turned them away, young virgin women that were given by their father to them to appease their anger, because they wanted to have homosexual sex with these angels. So when you start considering things like that, you start thinking about it, and you start looking around at why people do what they do. And I said, with my personal circumstances, you look around, you're like, hey, you're having a bad life, fella. I want to help you have a better life. I want to mentor you to do better for yourself. And they get into something, and then they turn away, and they choose the darkest path possible, the most vile and evil path possible. And you just leave you shaking your head like, what? Why'd I even waste my time trying to help that person? Push the button, just destroy Sodom and Gomorrah and move on to something else. That's how I feel. And, it's not necessarily the Christmassy spirit here in 2024, coming to the end of coming into 2025. It's, people think that you should always try to help and do good in the world, and I certainly do. But I do feel, as I see some of these news stories and study their ramifications and the origin of it, it all goes back to that mob outside Lot's house, and the fact that Yahweh, the creator of the universe, looked on Sodom and Gomorrah and said, I can't find anybody. Abraham, give me 10 examples of somebody who's worth saving in the whole thing. And Abraham's like, but let's think about it. Okay, tell me and give me some example. And he couldn't find an example. All right, I'm going to send my angels in. I'm going to get your guy, your nephew, Lot out. And it's gone. It's done. Keep yourself at a safe distance. And when Lot was pressed under those circumstances with an angry mob, he was willing to turn over his kids to save himself and to save his house guests. And that's the world we're living in. And I see it happen too often. And I probably during 2024 heard one too many times that someone either turned away from doing the right thing for stupid reasons, or that they were too willing to compromise their own children in ways to satisfy a social protocol without the value of protecting their kids like a parent should. And it's wore out my ambition to help more people, I think. And I just need to, recharge and get away from some of them for a while And I think I'll be fine after I read a few more books and take a few long walks like this one, and I'll be my normal peppy self. But the realization that most people just, Trump selected, we're going to try and do good things, make America great again, and that's all wonderful. And I think in that climate, more people might emerge to be good. But it's still an everlasting problem that has been there since the beginning of time. Why do people fall for evil? And why do people want to do evil? And even when you give them a better option, why do they choose evil? Over and over again. And it really comes down to human weakness. And that human weakness is the root of evil that just bothers me. And realizing that it's so pervasive has, put me kind of in a place where I totally understand why God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. I totally understand the flood. I totally understand the Tower of Babel. I totally understand all these stories where God just got frustrated, just because it's kind of where I'm at right now with people. I think sometimes they're not redeemable as much as you'd like them to be, as much as you'd love them to listen. And I probably do know more than 10 people that are worth saving. So you keep trying, you keep doing it, you keep hoping one more will join out of the many millions you interact with. And, you hope for good out there. You hope someone wants to do good. You hope maybe someone looks and says, I like what you're saying. I want to do good things. I want to do the right things. But most of the time, even good people like Lot, when pressed with the mob, throw their kids out in the street, or willing to throw their kids out in the street to be raped and pillaged by an angry mob of lunatics in order to preserve some social protocol that they think is much more valuable. And to me, that's sickening and not worth saving. People who think like that aren't worth saving. And I've probably had too much exposure to it during the holiday season of 2024. And it's going to take me a little bit to charge myself back up. But when people ask me why I've been so gloomy and not my usual positive self, I think that would be why. I don't think it's a permanent condition, but it's certainly what I'm thinking about right now. I understand why Yahweh destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. And I'm not quite there, ready to push the button, but I sure am thinking about it. Anyway, it's Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you haven't read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. Anyway, have a good day. See you later.